Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
UC San Diego decides it cannot handle a student protest encampment and a music festival on the same weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The annual Sun God Festival was suddenly canceled to continue security at the ongoing encampment for Palestine set up by students 3 days ago. And KPBS education reporter MG Perez joins us now live with the latest from campus on this developing story. MG.
Maya, it has been a busy day of activity here at the encampment. While it remains peaceful, it has not been without consequence. As you mentioned, the university has canceled a beloved music festival. More about that in a moment. But first, a visit from the latest supporters of this protest. It's one of the largest crowds of support so far here this week, with leaders of different faiths, but the same message of unity.
We don't have to be afraid of these students. They are living out our best values: honesty, transparency, justice, community, human rights and dignity, and peace.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to inspire. We're trying to uplift you guys. We're trying to make things better. And for what you guys have right over here is so strong.
Workers started tearing down the stage this morning on the Rimac Fields, where the popular rap, punk, and electronic pop artists were scheduled to play most of tomorrow. A crowd of 8,000 students was expected here for the annual event, suddenly canceled last night by the university's administration.
It doesn't make any sense to us.
Raymond Tran is a UCSD senior and also the editor-in-chief of The Guardian, a weekly student-run newspaper that has had a team of reporters covering the unfolding events of this week.
Our audience is the students, and our job is to highlight and uplift the student voices and perspectives, and that also includes the people in the encampment.
This is day 3 for hundreds of students who continue to rotate into the encampment, supporting Palestinians caught in the Middle East war. Their protest is peaceful, monitored closely by university police officers and additional hired security guards. In a written statement emailed to faculty and students last night, Maureen Harrigan, interim vice chancellor for resource management and planning, said in part, "Due to ongoing protest activity, our campus security resources that would otherwise be available to ensure the safety and security of the people participating in Sun God must be deployed elsewhere. We appreciate your understanding as we continue to prioritize the safety and well-being of our campus community."
The university wants to place the blame on the encampment for the cancellation of Sun God, which a lot of students are not buying into.
The cancellation has not deterred the passion of the protesters.
So as a Jewish person, I think it's especially important that I come here.
Marav is a freshman who only wants to be identified by her first name. She has extended family in Israel.
So many people in my community just completely reject this idea that the atrocities and genocide happening in Gaza are somehow for our benefit.
As the sun sets on this third day of the encampment, organizers and participants say they are willing to stay until their demands are heard. Reporting live at UC San Diego, I'm MG Perez, KPBS News.
Well, we have increasingly cool weather building in tonight and through the weekend. It's going to be breezy this weekend into the interior, and we are preparing for some scattered showers, actually, late season rain showers to pivot through parts of the region, especially into the west-facing slopes of the mountains. But we may even see a few near the coastline later on Saturday night into Sunday. And through 8 p.m. Sunday, wind advisories are in effect. It's going to get breezy as a storm system passes just to the north. Details are coming your way.
An update in the sexual assault civil lawsuit against former San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. Fletcher is asking a judge to order the best friend of his accuser to turn over all communications between the two women that mention him. In a filing this week, Fletcher says for months he has unsuccessfully sought messages between former MTS spokeswoman Garcia Figueroa and Los Angeles journalist Danielle Radin. Fletcher believes the exchanges will exonerate him in a civil lawsuit. Figueroa sued him last year, alleging he sexually assaulted and harassed her. Two men arrested at a 2021 protest in Pacific Beach that turned violent were convicted today. Brian Cortez Lightfoot and Jeremy Jonathan White were found guilty of conspiracy to commit a riot. Prosecutors say the two men joined other self-proclaimed anti-fascists in a counter-protest at the so-called Patriot March, which devolved into fighting and violence. Sentencing is set for late next month. House Speaker Mike Johnson is expected to face a vote calling for his removal next week. Julia Benbrook has the details from the Capitol.
Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia has promised to force a vote on GOP House Speaker Mike Johnson's ouster next week.
I think every member of Congress needs to take that vote and let the chips fall where they may.
While it is expected to fail, the move escalates pressure on Johnson and sets up a major showdown on the House floor.
We have to do what we believe to be the right thing. What the country needs right now is a functioning Congress.
Johnson is leading with a razor-thin majority, meaning it would only take a couple of Republican members to oust him if all the Democrats voted against him as well. But after Johnson moved last month to pass a major foreign aid package that included aid for Ukraine, House Democratic leadership announced they plan to help him. In a statement, the leaders wrote, quote, "We will vote to table Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's motion to vacate the chair. If she invokes the motion, it will not succeed." Republican Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky, who has joined Greene's effort, thinks that the Democrats' promise to save Johnson will only help the effort to oust him.
That was really a gift to our effort. I mean, to have Mike Johnson endorsed by Hakeem Jeffries, is the person who's supposed to be our foe.
But many Republicans oppose the push to oust Johnson and don't want to see the GOP conference in disarray like it was after former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was ousted last year. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
A floor vote to oust Johnson would require a majority to succeed, but it can still be preempted by a motion to table or kill the resolution. Home insurance in California is getting more expensive and harder to find. KPBS investigative reporter Scott Rodd tells us the problem is starting to affect the real estate market.
In order to get a mortgage, a home buyer needs to secure property insurance, but that's getting a lot harder these days.
5+ years ago, nobody had problems getting insurance. But today, insurance companies aren't writing the policies.
Greg Fox Jr. is a broker associate for Keller Williams Realty in Alpine. He says the problem is especially bad in rural areas facing wildfire risks. If a buyer does find insurance, it's often much more expensive than anticipated, and that can torpedo a home sale.
Nobody really knows at the start of the transaction whether or not they're going to be able to close their transaction.
Fox estimates a quarter of his deals in high fire risk areas now fall through due to insurance issues. That's taken a toll on him and his clients.
You work so hard to be able to help a buyer find that perfect property or to help that seller find that perfect buyer, and to have it fall out in the middle of a transaction because of insurance, it's very concerning as far as our industry goes.
California's insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, wants regulatory reforms to increase insurance availability in areas threatened by wildfires. He aims to finalize his plan by the end of the year. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
And it's being called the most expensive home sold in La Jolla. SDSU's Miro Kopik has more on what this says about the current housing market in the Friday Business Report.
The ultra luxury market is kind of its own market. There was a home sold that was owned by developer Doug Manchester, a 32-acre property for $35 million in the heart of La Jolla. He bought this home in 2015 for $17 million, so he more than doubled it. But he had been acquiring, nearby parcels to kind of expand the total acreage. And there was a $44 million home sold in Del Mar back in October. So in this super ultra luxury, these prices, especially in San Diego, suggest that there's a lot of movement there. But the real action and the real question is what's happening in the main real estate market. And this week, the report showed that the median home price in San Diego went up to $865,000. And what happened is that both if you split that between single family homes, which are now approaching the $1 million mark for the median price, $975,000, or condos, that showed that the market increased about 9.5% versus a year ago.
I'm William Brangham. Tonight on the NewsHour, a look at the Google antitrust trial that could change how we use the internet. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
San Diego City Council members and advocates shared their concerns about proposed library funding cuts at a budget committee meeting today. As KPBS reporter Katie Anastas reports, they say cuts would hurt under-resourced communities the most.
For many San Diegans, libraries are for more than just checking out books. They're also places to access homework help, computer classes, and Wi-Fi. According to the San Diego Library Foundation, they're a lifeline for the 53,000 households in the city that lack broadband internet.
I heard a phrase the other day, we're prioritizing paving over people. And that's, yes, it all needs to happen. Yes, this is a tough budget year, but still we have to maintain a connection to the most vulnerable individuals in our community.
The city faces a $137 million budget deficit. Mayor Todd Gloria's proposed budget wouldn't reduce library hours or staff, but it would reduce the library's programming budget by more than half. That budget funds programs like summer reading, pride, and mental health programming, among others. The budget also proposes reductions to the library's high-demand hotspot program, which helps people access the internet.
We have about 4,000 hotspots that we're lending. It would reduce it to about 3,000. There's a 98% checkout rate of those hotspots, so that would be impactful.
The library programming reductions would save the city $250,000. Council members say they're hopeful they can find alternatives to cutting library funding.
These are not big dollar amounts, but they will have a big impact. And I certainly hope that we can look to those who have much more and are much more equipped because of inequities in the past to absorb the impacts of reductions, to bear the burden of those reductions rather than the library department.
The council will continue discussing the budget in the coming weeks. The mayor's office will release a revised budget in mid-May. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
New breast cancer screening guidelines released this week are sparking criticism. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says the American Cancer Society estimates there will be about 4,500 breast cancer deaths in California this year.
At 45, Wendy Sherrills was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She had been following her doctor's advice to undergo screenings every other year.
It never dawned on me that missing, a year, that the following year I would be diagnosed with breast cancer.
The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force's latest breast cancer guidelines recommend women with average risk get mammograms every other year, starting at age 40 rather than 50. The task force says this approach could save more lives and has greater potential to benefit Black women, who are more likely to die from breast cancer than white women, despite fewer diagnoses. Cheryl says the recommendation falls short.
So this was a discussion that my support group had, and they were very upset when they are diagnosed at a later stage. That's almost like a death sentence to them. So to actually miss a year of not getting a mammogram is just detrimental.
Breast cancer advocates say annual screenings offer the greatest chance to catch cancers early, when treatments are more effective and survival rates are higher. Dr. Lori Ueno is a breast surgeon. For years, she's followed the guidelines of organizations like the American Cancer Society and recommends her patients get yearly screenings starting at 40.
We're seeing that we still pick up a lot of women who are having breast cancer at a younger age. And the recommendations have been balancing risks and benefits. And so I always felt like other professional organizations that the benefits did outweigh the harms.
By harms, Ueno means higher false positive rates, which occur when a mammogram is flagged as abnormal, but no cancer is present. This can lead to stress and additional imaging, biopsies, or invasive treatments that may be unnecessary. She says the most common breast cancers are slow growing.
But there are some breast cancers that are going to grow more rapidly or they're going to hit sort of a growth spurt. And that's what's unpredictable.
After losing her close friend, Cheryl started Many Shades of Pink, a San Diego-based breast cancer advocacy organization to empower Black women.
I told him that you do not have to accept it. You fight and advocate for yourself, that you want your screening, your screening or diagnostic mammogram annually. Each year, we can't afford to have this as African American women. We just can't. It's unacceptable.
Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
President Biden is expanding Affordable Care Act coverage to include DACA recipients. The White House announced a final rule today. It allows undocumented migrants brought to the U.S. as children who now live and work legally here to access health care coverage. Local Representative Juan Vargas is applauding the decision, stressing its significance and reaffirming his support for Dreamers and immigration reform. The new federal regulation is expected to extend health coverage to approximately 100,000 uninsured DACA recipients, with enrollment beginning November 1st. Since reusable bottles often carry just water, you may not feel the need to clean them as often, but that doesn't mean that they don't get dirty. Karen Kaifa has a look at some of the consequences of not washing your water bottle and how to avoid them.
As the temperatures climb, so can the amount of water it takes to stay hydrated. But before you step out with your reusable water bottle, maybe give it some TLC.
And we want people to stay hydrated, but we don't want them to do that at the risk of getting harm or getting an infection, which is what can happen if you're really not taking care of your water bottle.
Dr. Marianne Sumego with Cleveland Clinic says the inside of reusable bottles, whether plastic, glass, or stainless steel, are moist environments where bacteria loves to grow, especially under moving parts.
You're not getting in there with a bristle brush or really trying to get those mechanisms clean, you're going to leave that bacteria behind. And so, again, it's just another opportunity for things to kind of get out of control and grow.
That's not just really icky, it could also make you sick. Potential consequences include gastrointestinal issues and allergy symptoms.
If you've got mold allergies, you might be getting sniffles because that mold is going to grow over time. Absolutely loves a moist environment. And so you may have this unexplained constant sniffles, itchy nose, sneezing all the time.
Dr. Sumego says to give a water bottle a scrub with soap and water after each use, and don't forget to clean tops and straws. Ideally, throw the bottle in the dishwasher to get surfaces exposed to water pressure, both inside and out. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
As we take a look at our headlines, we have a very active weekend here for early May standards, turning much cooler. We're going to see some spotty showers, actually, Saturday night into Sunday. Not a guarantee that we see them in all areas near the coastline. Showers are more likely on the west-facing slopes of the mountains, but we could see a few showers even into San Diego late Saturday night and into Sunday as a storm system passes to our north, and it will produce some windy weather, windiest into the interior. Tonight, clouds increase. We'll get down to 59. And again, tomorrow, we're kind of in transition to a more active pattern. So the breeze is going to pick up. We'll see those clouds increase. The daytime weather should be dry for the most part. It's not out of the question that we begin to see a sprinkle or shower move in late in the day, maybe toward evening up near Oceanside, maybe a little more likely farther north and northwest up into the Los Angeles County coastline. But you can see this large storm storm is going to be moving through the northern part of California. And we are looking at, in some parts of the Sierra, 1 to 2 feet of snow up near Lassen Volcanic National Park, 10 to 20 inches of snow at Donner Pass for I-80. So this is late in the season for this. You'll notice that we're highlighting the green, deeper green, 1 to 3 inches of rain well to the north. And again, just a limited amount this far south. So again, we didn't quite bump the green onto the map for southern parts of California for Saturday. But you can see the snow coming down heavily there way to our north up into the Sierra. Showers move closer, and we're going to press pause early Sunday. Look at that little rain shower action nearby. Won't last long, but early May rain showers are in the cards for some. Wind advisories are going to be in effect into the interior until 8 p.m. Sunday. Winds will gust 40 to 60 miles per hour in areas to our north, and also possibly in isolated spots into the high ground, even into San Diego County, too. Coastal forecast here, we're dealing with temperatures into the mid-60s. A sprinkle in the morning on Sunday. There it is. And then we warm back up to 71 on Monday. Let's go into the inland areas. A little bit of morning rain on Sunday. Pretty late in the season for this. Cool, too. 64 for your high. Into the mountains we go. Strong winds subside. There will be some rain showers on Sunday, Saturday night, too. Windy weekend in the mountains, down to 44 for your Sunday high. And into the deserts, maybe a little bit of spotty sprinkle activity or just cloud cover for the most part Saturday night to Sunday morning. We do ramp back up into the mid-90s come Wednesday. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
The Oceanside Pier is on track to reopen next week. City officials say roughly 80% of the pier should be available for public use again on Thursday. And that will be 2 weeks after a fire broke out, gutting a vacant restaurant. Investigators are still determining the cause, but have ruled out arson. An original play about family, food, and love is making its debut at the Old Globe this weekend. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says Stir takes us back to the pandemic and the challenges and beauty that come from it.
The smells, sounds, and setting of Stir make it stand out among other plays.
I think what's exciting is for the kind of four-dimensional experience where we're going to be cooking and you're going to smell the onions and the garlic and the peppers, and the audiences, I hope, will feel a little hungry by the end of the show.
Written and principally acted by Melinda Lopez and Joel Perez, the play was a product of COVID-related shutdowns and originally premiered in 2021 on the East Coast.
We created a fictional universe where Henry and Mariana are cooking over Zoom to honor their mother. And Mariana, who has the recipe, and Henry, who wants to learn the recipe. And we made a Zoom play, and then we thought, this could work in person.
Now, Stir gets a proper stage for its world premiere in the Cheryl and Harvey White Theater at the Old Globe, says director Marcela Lorca.
The play is really about family, and it's about family grappling with the loss of a loved one.
The play focuses on two siblings, Henry and Mariana, who are separated by distance and circumstance, but meet to share their late mother's favorite black bean recipe as her ashes await a final resting place.
Over the course of us cooking together live, you realize why Henry actually concocted this plan to do something a little impulsive.
Lopez says the play emphasizes a type of ritual that keeps people grounded, together, and makes our lives sacred.
We all know what it was like to experience family at a distance over Zoom when we couldn't get in the room, and the play tries to navigate that separation and longing for connection.
The play, set during the pandemic, recreates a sense of distance in a unique stage setup that features a real working kitchen.
We have a kitchen that has 2 counters, and these counters can rotate and move. So we create the illusion that this brother and sister are in separate spaces cooking, but they can also fluidly sort of invade each other's space, as you will.
Perez says much of the plot is drawn from their experiences with mourning during the pandemic and his own grandmother's passing.
She was the kind of cook who never followed a recipe. She just sort of was super intuitive, but always tasted the same. So there's always this we've lost that and it'll never come back. And there's something so sad, but also so special about how food can make us feel and brings you right back to a memory.
The Mother's Bean recipe starts as a simple project, but it leads to a surprising connection as the siblings reminisce and reveal secrets of their own.
Swear you won't ever tell.
While the play deals with the loss, it's still a comedy that's meant to be funny and moving.
It's that closeness between the siblings and the kind of language that they use that where they can laugh also at things that are poignant and things that are hard. It's a very intimate play, so I think that allows for a lot of humor to live.
Stir also focuses on Latino identity in America, in roles that defy stereotypes. Yet its message is universal for people of all cultures. Breaking bread with loved ones after a long time apart.
Sure, you're not Cuban, but I'm sure there's some sort of food that you remember fondly as a child that your parent or your grandparent or your loved one used to make.
Lorca hopes its message impacts the audience beyond the set.
To reflect on their own family and their own loved ones and what's important in life, which is to share love and be kind to one another.
As for the food, like magic, it's probably just for show, but the recipe is in the program for people who want to try and cook the beans themselves. Performances for the 4-week play run May 4th through 26th. For those interested in family, food, and healing, more information is available at oldglobe.org. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.